All right, guys. So one of my secret weapons that I have in my arsenal is SCT oil. And the only reason that I even have a clue what that is thanks to you guys. I would have never known. I would have been using MCT oil, which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but that's like when you can have a Mercedes and you drive in a Jaguar, which is really nice, but you can go a big step up further, right? But in reality, this is literally been a game changer for me with my diet and for my mornings and my coffee. So could you please give a good explanation on the difference between SCT and MCT?
Yeah, so first of all, just like the name says, SCT stands for short chain triglyceride versus MCT, which stands for medium chain triglycerides. So SCT oil is a short chain fatty acid. And so when we're looking at fatty acids, we're looking at the chains or numbers of carbons that the fatty acid actually has. So where you're looking at an SCT oil that's going to have 1 to 5 carbon chains versus an MCT, which is going to be 6 and above until you start getting into the polyunsaturated fatty acids. And so the reality is this is because it does have less carbons in it, it's a lot easier for the body to digest. And so that's one of the simple things for that. So a lot of people understand MCT oils when they first came out, and they started really crushing MCT oils, especially in a lot in the bodybuilding community, for example. And the problem with that, and they didn't realize why it was happening, but they were crushing these medium chain triglycerides, and they started getting this thing that was called, we refer to it affectionately as disaster pants. When you do look at a medium chain triglyceride like an MCT oil, what they've actually done to sell it as MCT oil is they've fractionated the bonds. You've only got one chain. It could be like a C8 or a C10, and it doesn't naturally occur in nature. And so it makes it really hard on the gut or the digestive system to try to digest it. So as people were consuming a lot of these MCT oils, they ended up getting a lot of these disaster pants or diarrhea, stomach bloating, cramping, and all of those things, making it really uncomfortable because the body really just doesn't know what to do with it. So with our SCT oil or short chain triglyceride, it's actually a full spectrum oil naturally occurring in nature. So we can be able to consume it exactly the way God intended it to. Because of that, our body already now has the digestive enzymes to be able to digest that. The reality is this, is that everybody's body should be producing these short chain triglycerides in the body, in the gut. But because of the standard American diet and what we all know about what's been happening with the gut biome has been destroyed. And the body's just not creating it like it did back with our ancestors.
Yeah. No, well said. So yeah, I mean, listen, you've got long chain fats, you got medium chain fats, you got short chain fats. And your body, obviously, I think, Dylan, you obviously know, and your listeners know that, man, you got to have healthy fats. They kind of steered us away from fats. Really, if you remember back in the early 90s, how, fat was this going to make you sick and overweight, and you couldn't be healthy. I mean, I bought into it. Heck, I was eating no-fat Twinkies and using, skim milk and non-fat ice cream to make these milkshakes for my protein drinks, just scared to death that eating any fat was going to make me fat. And now we're fatter than we've ever been. So kind of the beauty of SCT oils, we really stumbled onto it out of a crisis. As you know a little bit about my story, when I was diagnosed with late stage cancer back in July of 2010, and they'd given me, just a few months to live. And I ended up going into Spain, working with a cellular biologist. And we really discovered that my body wasn't making those short chain fats. Like Dr. Rob was talking about, when you have a healthy, the buzzword now is microbiome. So having that alpha diversity, that strong gut where you can make them. Well, my body was sick. I had cancer in my liver, in my lymphatics, in my stomach. My body wasn't making them. So we were dosing me with short chain fats, but they were coming from dairy products like sheep and goat, aged cheeses, kefirs, fermented dairy products that were rich in short chain fats. So obviously you find these in healthy dairy products. So when we get back from Spain, because as you know, Rob was over there helping take care of me. And by the way, I didn't die. I'm alive. I'm healthy. But it puts something in our heart. Like, let's go back and let's really start looking at this deeper. Let's educate some people around these type fats. And then we come back to America, and a lot of the dairy industry is corrupt. full of hormones and antibiotics. It's pasteurized, homogenized. It's not made from genetically correct cattle. So you're getting a lot of damage where most people can't even eat dairy. But we started looking and there wasn't anybody making a short chain triglyceride product. I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember Rob gets on like GoDaddy, types in sctoil.com to see if anybody had ever made it or bought it. Of course, nobody had. So we buy the site with no product. So it's like, all right, now we got to figure out how do we make this product? So about 18 months later, we had really crafted something we could really launch, not only for ourselves because we wanted it, but we wanted to help get it to the people, to help them heal, to help people really restore their gut microbiome and get the benefits from these short chain fats. So it is a real food product that we do. It's very, very labor intensive to make. It's very time consuming, but as you know, the benefits are phenomenal. And one of the short chains in the SCT oil that you find is called acetate. And a lot of people know it as acetic acid. Vinegars are popular for having strong concentrations of acetic acid, like an apple cider vinegar. But it's a 2-carbon chain fatty acid. And what it does, it was actually published in the Molecular Physiology and Metabolism Journal. They showed that acetate actually triggers our hypothalamus, part of our endocrine system, to actually tell the body to burn visceral fat, which is the fat that packs around the liver. How many people now have a fatty liver? Or NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. They've got fat around their heart, around their pancreas, and it's choking off the function to their organs. Very dangerous. So the hypothalamus will be triggered to tell your body to burn that fat just by consuming nutrient-dense foods that contain acetic acid. And there isn't a better source of acetic acid really than what's found in the SCT oil. And then there's another fatty acid. It's a 3-carbon chain called propionate. And propionate, I love this one because we're now in a world where we've all got a GLP-1 consciousness. And so what propionate does, it actually triggers our gut in the small intestine to actually release our body's own GLP-1 hormone. Our body makes it. It's definitely a good thing, especially when you can endogenously stimulate your body to produce it versus injecting something synthetically into your body. You can never rob Peter to pay Paul. Your body will make it and it'll create that satiety that you want with 0 side effects. But the most famous short chain fat of all is called butyric acid. Butyrate. It's where they got the name butter because it's a 4-carbon chain fat. And the beauty of butyrate, I like that. The beauty of butyrate is what it will do is it actually tells your body, it stimulates your body to actually burn fat for energy. And it's so easy to absorb, like Dr. Rob was saying, you don't need a bunch of enzyme activity to digest it. It goes right into your portal vein, into your liver, for straight up energy. And so there's a study showing that it stimulates leptin activity in your fat cells. So the hormone that tells your brain to burn fat, it targets your fat cells to stimulate leptin to the brain. So you turn into this crazy fat burning machine. So those are just some of the benefits you get from these short chain fats. And I think it's our opinion, probably yours as well, that most people, they're deficient in these fats. And their microbiome is a wreck and they can't even make these fats naturally.
That is 100%. I'm the biggest advocate on the planet with this. And I, like you, and we've talked about this, was terrified fats, even though I'm a nutritionist and coach people to eat fats. And I think beyond us getting brainwashed, it's just you hear fats and then you assume fat like gain, which is the polar opposite. And in fact, if you train your body right, which we will talk about later, in terms of how you eat, the more fat you eat, the more you actually lose. But you have to understand so many different aspects. Let me ask you this. When it comes to CLA, we've talked about this before. How does CLA relate to the SCT oil, the release of that, or is there any sort of benefit in that regard? And also, I just want to say and touch on, when you're making a bulletproof coffee, the way that you feel when you and like I say, I like to stagger coffee in the morning. I don't like to do it. I would like to wait about 90 minutes before. It's not a good thing to have it right away, but you kind of start your day off like that. And the way that even on my bad days, when I'm tired, I don't feel like it. As soon as I have that SCT, I get sharper, I get a little bit more energy, and I'm way more like cognitively available. But yeah, touch on the CLA aspect that we've talked about before with.
Yeah, conjugated linoleic acid, CLA. It's been big in the nutrition world for a long time because of the promise for a six-pack. And I never really quite got the six-pack without actually doing the workouts that go with the CLA supplement. But all the advertising with the ripped guys and the muscle mags, it was very compelling. All they were doing apparently was chalking down CLA capsules. But, it kind of goes back to isolation, what you were talking about, Dr. Rob. When you take something out of its natural environment and you now fractionate it or separate it from what it would normally be found in a real food product, I don't know that we can really science the human body like that, because anything that's taken out of how you would find it in nature, it's hard really to prove what that does or does not do. Now, I really believe there's a lot of benefits with fat metabolism, with reducing inflammation. There's a lot of studies out there that show that. CLA is rich in SCT oil because we know the source of the SCT oil coming from genetically correct cows who are even eating taller, longer grasses like fescue. And one of the most popular biohacking supplements out there, Dylan, you're going to know this one. Everybody's going to know this one. And not to deviate from CLA, but it's fatty 15 and these odd chain fatty acids. Well, when cows eat fescue, or these longer type grasses, and they biohydrogenate or ferment these grasses, the ruminant animals, they produce more C15. So just like you take a capsule of something isolated, you get more bang for your buck when you eat things in their natural state. Therapeutically, the dose may not be as high as you taking a supplement, but I don't know that dosages that are higher means more bioavailability. You can take a zinc supplement that's got maybe 15, 20 milligrams in isolation, or you can eat oysters that maybe have 1.2 milligrams, which is way less, that get way more bioavailability and get more bang for your buck. I just don't think you can replace any type of real food product with taking a bunch of supplements. And we're not against supplements. I know you aren't as well. But hopefully that makes sense. There's so many compounds found in real food, and we only know about 1% of those.
Yeah.
Yep. And then to talk about what you were even talking about with just even having the mental clarity, for example, with getting that in your coffee in the morning, one of the benefits with the SCT oil, what it does is it really helps to be able to open the cell up to allow nutrients inside the cell. It also is not so taxing then on the insulin. It helps to be able to balance out your insulin, your cortisol levels. So because of that, your body is able to way more efficiently utilize glucose, getting that glucose up to your brain. So you have that feeling of just having that mental acuity, that mental awareness, and just feeling sharp, especially first thing in the morning, that you don't get from just having coffee alone.
Yeah, coffee in the morning, we agree, can really disrupt your cortisol, especially if you've got adrenal fatigue. But if you throw in some SCT oil into your coffee with some trace mineral salts, now that's a completely different ball game where you're not crashing your hormones and creating that adrenal fatigue. So I don't know if you've tried that first thing. Do you normally delay your coffee and go hit the gym on a fasted workout, or what is your strategy?
So I get up immediately in the morning. I do about 20 minutes of prayer, and then I get up and go right out and walk for 20 minutes. And another kind of my time there, and then I'll come back and I will kind of set up in there to make coffee. So I guess I'd probably do it about 65 minutes after I wake up, right around there. I don't miss a day with it at all. Now, I understand there's multiple uses for it, and we could touch on using that to cook with, as opposed to people that don't understand that olive oil is not ideal to cook with, and you can explain that better than I, because I learned that from you. But that's the way I prefer to use it. Or when I cook salmon, or like a fish, like a sea bass, what I'll do is place it right on the top of it as I bake it, and bake it right into the fish. Yeah, I always come up with tricks, man, on how to utilize things like that. Why don't you guys explain Because you told me that at first, and I was kind of taken aback because we've always just naturally used olive oil to cook with all the time. Talk about that. Explain the difference there and why it's so superior in that regard.
Well, the smoke point on it is up to 500 degrees to begin with, so you can be able to cook with it without it denaturing or going bad. So my favorite way to cook with it is utilizing to cook a steak in. Tastes phenomenal. It's amazing, right? And so just is the way it helps with all the short chain fatty acids and just with satiety, like Dr. Randy was saying a few minutes ago, with just the amount of energy that you get, because now you're getting a long burn when it comes to the energy from it. And it's weird because even nowadays, most people are now being taught, for example, to cook with something like an avocado oil or more of, that type of an oil, which you don't even know what it is that you're getting to begin with at the store. Or if you've made the mistake like I did way back in the day and tried to cook with like a coconut oil or an MCT oil, you heat that stuff up and it literally smells like you are burning metal inside your kitchen. And I'm like, dear God, why in the world would I want to put that into my body? I don't know about you, but whenever you're smelling SCT oil and cooking with that, it smells like buttery caramel. It doesn't like buttery caramel, right? You know what I mean? And so not only does it taste good, it's healthy, and I could go on and on about the taste of it. However, the health benefits are literally through the roof.
And it's not even that it's even got just a high smoke point, because avocado oil has a high smoke point, but the peroxidation point, the ability of the oil to break down and create reactive oxygen species is very, very low in an avocado oil versus a short chain fat, which can withstand the heat. So you're not putting more stress on the body by taking maybe a good oil and now creating all those, what they call them, oxalams, those oxidative linoleic acid metabolites. Surely everybody knows not to be cooking in seed oil like the canola and the soy and the corn, because they produce those, but you'll produce a lot of those if you start cooking down and high heating these oils. So it's perfect to cook in. You definitely can throw it in your coffee. One of my favorite ways, my two favorite ways to use it is, one, I like to do 1 part raw honey, 1 part SCT oil together. Man, it's an amazing superfood that you can actually give your body. In fact, you can do a little shot of apple cider vinegar with that, and it creates what's called an oxamel, which is historically known in ancient cultures to support the gut and prepare the gut for absorbing nutrients. And then my new latest craze, and you're going to love this one. I went to Sprouts the other day, and they have this big bag of these sawed off basically pieces of spinal bone from cow's bone marrow. So I thawed out the bone marrow, and then I mixed it with SCT oil, and I threw that on top of my bison burger with some melted raw cheese. And Dylan, I got to tell you, bliss, man. I had short chain fats and flavor coursing through my veins. I definitely felt like my abs looked better the next morning. It might have been placebo. I don't know, but hey, whatever. The nutrient density, when you start eating those type fats with the good quality proteins, are insane how you feel. So that's some of our favorite ways to utilize it. But it's just a real food product. You can really use it like you would use anything. You just want to get it into your body. You can really directly source your gut with these incredible fats, especially if you've got no gallbladder, if you've got a congested liver, if you've had any type of bowel issues like IBS or diverticulitis or Crohn's, any type of constipation, diarrhea, where you're even SIBO, we're seeing incredible results of people who dose these type fats.
Yeah, the other thing too is well, we've got a lot of functional medicine docs who utilize this in their cognitive decline protocols. They're using it in their weight loss protocols. They're using it in their diabetes protocols just because the fat is so good. And we look at even the brain to begin with is made up of about 60% fat. So because of that, you gotta have it, right? And so the whole no fat thing is crazy because your body has to have it. You just got to make sure that you're having the right fats getting into your body.
Absolutely. It has really worked wonders for me. And it's nice to be able to enjoy things that you're eating and taste and see how your body responds to them so well. My blood panels respond so well. There's a multitude of things that I can give as a personal assessment to where I will never go without it. That's why I'm always telling you guys, if I'm even down to like 1 jar left, it's like when you fill up your gas tank at halfway just because you don't want to risk it. You know what I mean? So honestly, don't ever want to go without it. So why don't you tell everybody, because since we need to spread the love and the word on this, where are the best places to get SCT oil at?
All they got to do is go to sctoil.com. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. S is in Sam, C is in cat, T is in Tom, oil.
All right, excellent. Well, and everybody listening, I'm always happy to answer questions on my experiences with it and anything that I could do, but I would divert you to the two experts there that taught me everything that I know on it as well. But I can certainly give you plenty of insight on how it's changed life for me in general. So thanks, guys, for the explanation. I'm sure this is going to be extremely beneficial to everybody. And I just, like we try to do, give you something life-changing every single day.